This morning, more Melbourne suburbs on edge. The Victorian government desperately battling to contain the Holiday Inn outbreak. Confronting new vision of the Capitol riots, Democrats attempting to convince the US Senate to convict Donald Trump of insurrection. And a man re-arrested in the search for missing Melbourne mother Kelly Jiang.
This is 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good morning. Even more Melbourne suburbs are on high alert today over the hotel quarantine COVID breach. Return travellers were moved from the Holiday Inn yesterday as concerns grew over how the virus was spreading. Let's go live to 7 News reporter Charnel Valla. Good morning, Charnel. There are now 8 cases linked to this outbreak.
Good morning, that's right. Late yesterday afternoon, the state government announced another 2 cases were linked to the Holiday Inn cluster. One of those was a return traveller who left quarantine on the 7th. They then spent 3 days out in the community before their positive result came back. The second person was another quarantine worker, bringing the number of quarantine workers linked to this outbreak to 3. The government says all of this is still coming from a family of 3, one of whom used a nebuliser, which is an oxygen mask. That has carried, they believe, COVID out into the corridor. They are bracing for more exposure sites and more cases.
Well, look, that's why we're encouraging Victorians to continue to go and get tested with even the mildest of symptoms, and why we've also set up those additional testing sites, boosted the capacity yesterday at our 20 existing sites and added those new sites in and around the Sunbury community overnight and into today. And so we just have to, it is a bit of a wait and see.
The government announced 2 new exposure sites. They are in Melbourne's southeast. They are both banks in Glen Waverley, one being the Commonwealth Bank, the other is the HSBC Bank. But we also have exposure sites in the northwest, so there are many suburbs across Melbourne right now on high alert.
All right, Charnel, thank you very much for updating us. New South Wales has recorded another day of 0 new locally acquired coronavirus cases. It's the 25th consecutive day without any new cases. However, 3 were reported in return travellers. It comes as the state prepares for new freedoms. The 1 person per 2 square metre rule will apply from tomorrow. COVID-19 dining vouchers will be rolled out from today across New South Wales to help struggling businesses bounce back. The trial will begin in Broken Hill and the Rocks before expanding to other areas. Residents will be given 4 passes worth $25 each to spend on food or entertainment in local venues. It's part of a $500 million stimulus package to boost the New South Wales economy. Labor leader Anthony Albanese is fiercely defending his pledge for greater protections for casual and contract workers following a backlash from business. Live to political reporter Olivia Leeming in Canberra. Good morning, Olivia. He's pushing ahead with this plan.
Yes, he's adamant that this suite of reforms will help combat insecure work, though business has been scathing, warning that it will cost jobs. Among the changes, Mr Albanese wants to let contractors take their annual and sick leave with them when they change employers, award government contracts to firms that offer secure work options, and give Uber drivers and other gig economy workers a minimum wage and better conditions. The government warns that its modelling suggests Labor's policies would impose a $20 billion cost on businesses, a figure rejected by the opposition leader.
This government just makes up figures as if they get them out of a cereal box in the morning. They can't be taken seriously. What should be taken seriously is the fact that workers are doing it tough.
We fear that businesses will be saddled with significant additional costs to casual employment, are a recipe for fewer jobs and closing businesses.
Anthony Albanese was asked how much Labor believes these policies will cost employers if it's not $20 billion, and he would not name a figure, though it's a question he will face repeatedly in the lead up to the next election, one he will have to answer if he's going to successfully combat any government scare campaign. Employer groups are still urging Labor to support the Coalition's workplace reforms, which Labor maintains will leave workers worse off. Anne?
All right, Olivia, thank you very much. A leading infectious diseases expert is warning if vaccination rates don't speed up, it'll take more than 6 years to achieve global herd immunity from COVID-19. Professor Sanjaya Senanyaka says with vaccine rollouts underway in just 70 countries, it's essential developed nations help third world countries.
Otherwise, if infections occur unchecked in the developing world, we will see new strains emerge that are resistant to the current vaccines.
With an ever-increasing population and continual encroachment on natural habitats, the professor says the next pandemic is just around the corner. Fresh security video of the Capitol riot has played at Donald Trump's impeachment trial today. Democrats open the debate, outlining their case against the former president. Live now to Ashley Mullaney in Washington, D.C. Ash, it's disturbing vision.
Good morning, and this has been critical and at times confronting evidence presented by the Democrats. Never before seen CCTV showing the moment the mob stormed the Capitol and came within metres of the Vice President. The video showing the very moment the Secret Service ushered Mike Pence and his family into a safe room. The heroics of police on display with this video showing the police taking these senators away from the danger. All of this drama playing out over police radio 2. Take a listen.
The Vice President turns around briefly.
They're starting to dismantle the reviewing stand and throwing metal tools at us. We're going to give riot warnings. We're going to try and get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
1349 hours declaring it a riot.
Donald Trump is facing a single charge of incitement of insurrection. Democrats laying out a case today that he was not just an innocent bystander on January 6, but that he was, quote, the inciter-in-chief.
We know from the rioters themselves that if they had found Speaker Pelosi, they would have killed her.
He assembled the mob, he summoned the mob, and he incited the mob.
For the first time in more than 200 years, the seat of our government was ransacked on our watch.
Democrats will need 17 Republicans to turn on the president to secure a conviction. Right now, that looks like a challenge for them. He still has the support of the majority of the party. This trial moving at lightning speed, and we could potentially see a vote on whether to convict the former president as early as this weekend.
Ash Mullaney live in Washington. Thank you very much, Ash. A man's been re-arrested over the disappearance of a Melbourne mother. Jun Seong Tan was arrested at Melbourne Airport last night. Epping mother Zhu Jiang, also known as Kelly, was last seen at her home on the 1st of February. Her 35-year-old boyfriend was arrested on Sunday but released without charge. Australia's Lord Howe Island was placed on tsunami alert this morning after a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the South Pacific. The alert was quickly cancelled, with the large waves seen near where the quake hit off New Caledonia.
We did see some 35 centimetre waves observed up near the Gold Coast and smaller waves down the east coast of New South Wales. That's under the marine warning threshold of 40 centimetres.
There's a warning for dangerous rips, waves and strong ocean currents along the eastern coastline. A teenager has run directly into the path of a truck after abandoning a van he'd allegedly stolen. The 16-year-old is now under police custody in hospital.
Good morning. The 16-year-old boy has spent the night here at the Gold Coast University Hospital under police guard. He suffered a broken arm and gash to his head, but really he's very lucky he wasn't more seriously injured. Dash cam vision shows him running directly into the path of a truck that was carrying glass. Now, police allege the teenager stole a van from a home at Robina on Tuesday night. It was the van owner's son who spotted that vehicle, blocked it in with his own car before calling police and his father. But the teenager wasn't sticking around for police to arrive.
And we were just sort of telling him, look, the police are on their way, just wait, don't do anything stupid.
He's just stupidly run out in front of the truck, not thinking of where he's going.
The van was damaged, but that wasn't the only thing that was stolen. The van owner, Robert Drew, is a double amputee. His prosthetic limbs were inside that van, along with scuba gear that he uses for work. Robert was very grateful to have all of that gear back. The arrest of this teenager comes just days after Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk announced tough new laws for juvenile offenders.
Coming up next in 7 News, the moment a pedestrian is thrown through the air. What led to this shocking hit? And royals vaccinated. The Prince of Wales and Camilla received their first COVID jabs. Security cameras have captured the heart-stopping moment a car swerves into the driveway of a business, hitting a man on the New South Wales mid-north coast. The Mazda turned to avoid crashing into a reversing ute at Port Macquarie and instead ploughed into the man. He was sent flying, landing on the lawn. It's understood he wasn't seriously hurt, and police are looking at the video. Crown Resorts are scrambling to rebuild their reputation after a scathing report into their casino management. 2 Crown directors have resigned, while a third has severed ties with James Packer's Consolidated Press Holdings.
Well, the gaming authorities said that Crown would need to blow itself up to save itself, and it appears that has begun with the resignation of 2 Crown directors yesterday. Both were close allies of James Packer, and a third director cutting ties with Packer's Consolidated Press. Not all hope is lost for the Sydney side. Consultations will get underway between the regulator and Crown later this week, but those resignations alone will not be enough to satisfy the gaming authority.
But I'm quite delighted that that's happened. We're starting a dialogue with Helen Coonan, the chair, regarding whether or not Crown can make themselves suitable, and I've got to say it's a good start.
The Bergen report found that Crown had been infiltrated by organised crime and the interstate venues had facilitated money laundering. So there are now calls for those other casinos in Victoria and WA to have their licences suspended. Daniel Andrews did announce in December that he had ordered the Victorian gaming regulator to review the licence in Melbourne. He is still to announce who will be leading that, though. In WA, the state solicitor is also reviewing the report to see how it impacts Crown Perth, but Premier Mark McGowan has said he will not be suspending the licence because there are too many jobs on the line.
South Australia's snap border closure to Victoria is being blamed for contributing to a deadly truck crash. Witnesses have reported queues stretch back 10 kilometres in the moments before the fatal collision early this morning. One truck slammed into the back of another near the border, causing a chain reaction. One driver has been confirmed dead. Britain's future king has received his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Prince Charles and wife Camilla had the jab overnight. The Prince of Wales tested positive to coronavirus during the first wave of the pandemic in March last year, but suffered only mild symptoms. The Queen and Prince Philip have already had their first dose as the vaccine rollout continues across Britain. More large Australian companies are posting their first half-year earnings, with billion-dollar losses becoming increasingly common. Let's bring in Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton. Good morning, Gemma. How did our share market open this morning?
Well, good morning, Nam. Well, given the raft of disappointing earnings data, it could have been a much worse start to the day. Currently, the ASX is down by only 12 points. Telstra's first half revenue fell by 10%, while profits were down 2%. It was hit by tougher competition and the continued rollout of the NBN. But shareholders will still get a dividend of 8 cents a share, which is one reason why they're pushing the share price higher today. Now, it's not such good news for AMP shareholders. Its shares have fallen more than 9% this morning. This comes after a US-based wealth manager, Ares, withdrew its $6 billion bid to buy the long-struggling business. AMP hasn't paid a dividend since 2018 and won't after these results either. Full-year profits tumbled by a third, and clients pulled more money out of its wealth management business. And in more disappointing dividend news, a shopping centre operator Unibail-Rodamco Westfield has just said it won't make another payout to shareholders until 2023, and road toll giant Transurban has halved its dividend. And to round out the bleak picture, the Aussie dollar slipped a little overnight, but it is still keeping its head just above 77 US cents.
Gemma Acton reporting. Thanks very much, Gemma. Coming up next in 7 News, we'll have sport with Matt Shervington, including Nick Kyrgios proves himself the comeback king in the Aussie Open thriller. Also, Tom Brady's risky celebration steals the spotlight as Super Bowl festivities roll on.
Good morning. The Australian Open is quickly becoming the Nick Kyrgios show after a 5-set classic against Ugo Humbert last night. The Aussie saved 2 match points and battled on-court technology to reach the third round. Disappointment for compatriots Ajla Tomljanovic and Alex Bolt, who both crashed out.
Nick Kyrgios is no stranger to conflict with people. Last night he had technology against him as well.
Obviously something's wrong. So reset the machine.
The world number 47 took aim at the net detector. Numerous serves for both players called lets. After losing the first set, Kyrgios' racket took the brunt of his anger.
A racket's being crushed.
The net detector again earned his fury in the second.
It's ruining the game. Do you not understand it? Yeah, but you don't understand it.
Questions remained over the technology, but the set soon went his way. The Melbourne crowd fueling the Aussie star. Nick's tricks were struggling to pay off. Down 2-1, he saved a match point before needing his best to stop another.
Oh yes!
Some couldn't bear to watch as Kyrgios forced a decider. Again, the net detector came into the spotlight.
It's here, bro! It's here!
Nick took matters into his own hands, hitting the device off the net. After 3 hours and 25 minutes, relief and a welcome win for the ages.
If you were in my head, I actually was just thinking about just all the I was going to cop if I lost that match.
The night wasn't as good for Ajla Tomljanovic. The Aussie gave up a 5-2 lead in the third to lose to world number 2 Simona Halep. James Manton, 7 News.
The Broncos have finally given in and are set to grant hooker Alex McCulloch a release to join the Dragons today. The 31-year-old will sign a 3-year deal with the Red V after giving Brisbane an ultimatum to extend his contract or let him leave. The Broncos are now on the lookout for a new hooker. Melbourne Victory remain rooted to the bottom of the A-League ladder after losing to Western Sydney Wanderers 2-0. Marco Rojas had to be substituted after a high kick leaving his face bloodied. Bernie Abini copped the same.
And it's a penalty. Rudy Justad has tried to go the acrobatics. Bernie Abini is out.
The Wanderers scored the penalty, then sealed victory with another goal in the dying minutes. They're now up to third on the ladder. It was a goal bonanza in Everton and Tottenham's FA Cup clash this morning. Everton scored 3 goals in 7 minutes just before the break, but Spurs captain Harry Kane's late strike took it to extra time at 4-4. Everton needed something special to book their place in the quarter-finals.
Through to Bernard. He had to wait for it, but now he's lashed it home. What a contact that is. What a cracker from Bernard.
Manchester City surged to a record 15th straight win in English competitions, beating Swansea 3-1. Melbourne United continue to set the standard in the NBL. United picked up their 6th win in as many games against the Illawarra Hawks in Wollongong. The Hawks pulled out all the tricks to get around ladder leaders, but United held on to win 91-88.
Got away from Froling and scores. Goodness, huge from Jack White.
The Hawks remain second on the ladder despite back-to-back losses. If you ever somehow win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't recommend trying this. Celebrations are still ongoing for Tampa Bay after Monday's win, and Tom Brady is starting to get a little bit reckless after picking up his 7th championship. Yeah, that's Brady throwing the Vince Lombardi trophy between boats on the Hillsborough River in Tampa. When the 43-year-old finally reached land, he looked a little worse for wear. And understandably, he's celebrating. Yeah. He didn't disappoint during the Super Bowl, and he's still entertaining us post-match as well.
They got plenty to celebrate, haven't they?
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Next in 7's Morning News, we'll have the national weather forecast for you. More than a month on an island in the Bahamas may sound like bliss to some, but 3 people are happy to be home after becoming stranded for 33 days. A woman and 2 men managed to swim to the small island after their boat sank off Cuba. The US Coast Guard brought them to safety after spotting them during a routine patrol. The trio survived on rats and coconuts. Let's check out weather across the country now. A front is bringing cool, gusty winds and showers to southern WA, spreading into the Northern Territory and South Australia. Low cloud is lingering along the east coast of Victoria, stretching up to nearby coastal areas of New South Wales. Around the capitals, partly cloudy in Brisbane today, a top of 29, mostly sunny, 27 in Sydney. Canberra, mostly sunny and 30 degrees. A late shower or 2 in Melbourne, a top of 34 degrees today. Sunny with a late shower in Hobart and 26. A very hot day in Adelaide, 38 degrees there today. Sunny in Perth, 26, and a shower or 2 in Darwin and 31. And that's 7 News to now. We'll keep you up to date throughout the day. Our next bulletins at 4 and 6. I'm Ann Sanders. Thanks for your company. Have a lovely day.